and start this recording button. Okay, so now it's recording my screen and everything, and you'll be able to look at that. Okay, so I'm going to go to the course website, which is on Blackboard, and you all can do this. And we'll just go over the syllabus first. That'll take about 10 minutes, and then we'll get right into the course. Your list doesn't look this long, but the one that you want is called 217 Cross List Intro to GIS and Labs. So I'm going to have to make a different accommodation for the graduate students. So I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll just upload it to the. Actually, maybe I'll just. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I just have to send it to you or provide a link or something. I'll send it to you in an email. I have to do the same thing for GHY, so I'll just always put you on the list. Okay, so syllabus first. Okay. You don't see all this. Yours will look a little different. So this is the syllabus from the last time it was taught, and this is today's syllabus, which you only see the current syllabus on here. I'll open this up. Now this is the Introduction to GIS course. I haven't taught this in it's been at least over a year, but I'm really excited to teach it again. It's great to be able to talk about this topic, something that's really exciting to me. In fact, when I went to college as a freshman, my grandfather is actually a geography professor too, just like me, except for his specialty was travel and tourism. I don't think he touched the computer because he retired. Well, no, he touched the computer. He retired before GIS really took off or anything. So anyway, when I went there, I did not want to do what my grandpa did because you get all that like, oh, that's so cute, you're doing what your grandpa did. So I tried out a few different classes. Nothing really clicked. And I went up just to talk to my grandpa because he's on campus. I actually saw a flyer for this, and so I enrolled in the course and read all about what it was. And it was very exciting, especially for somebody like me that, I had maps all over my room as a kid. I like maps. I like that you can tell a story with maps. But this is actually more than just that. GIS is being able to take the complexities of the world and to store them on a computer and then analyze them to produce some sort of meaningful result. But it's that whole process. What do you take from the world? What do you extract from the world? And how do you store it if you want to do a certain type of analysis? And how does that analysis then get done? Okay? So it is an exciting topic, and I'll introduce it better with the slides for sure. But that's why I'm glad to be able to teach it again. Let me make this a little bit larger view. So I don't have any syllabi. Is that the plural? I don't know. To hand out just online. So I need to email it to the students. So first of all, technically, the only prerequisite is that you have taken a college algebra course or the equivalent. I'm not going to be doing any high-level math here, but this is a course where we do some thinking that is related to math, and you're not going to sit down and have to do any math homework, but to understand the concepts, it's very similar to understanding basic mathematical concepts. We're not going to do any calculus. But college algebra is technically equivalent. If you don't have that, you can come talk to me and maybe we can make an exception. But that's technically the prerequisite. You also are about to enter the world of computers. So I don't really like it when people tell me that they're not a computer person. You're in a class where you're learning to model the earth on computers. And so, yes, we're willing to teach you that, but you're going to have to become a person who's very comfortable with computers. So we're going to do things like move files in Windows. We're going to extract zip files and move them from one location to another. at the end of the course, you're going to have to be comfortable with that. And so feel free to ask questions, but this is something that is inherent in what you're doing is computers. And so you don't have to be a tech wizard, but know that you're going to have to become familiar with computers. And I probably have to say this less and less as generations move on. Anyway, all right, so your textbook here, I don't know if any of you have purchased a textbook at the bookstore. That's a fine place to get it, I suppose. It's called GIS Fundamentals, it's the 5th edition. It is available as an electronic copy, right, direct from the publisher for $22, which is cheaper, I think, than what they sell at the bookstore for. Also, a hard copy of the book, if you wanted to order directly from the publisher, is $38, which I still think is less than the bookstore. It's $38, okay, good. Okay, good. So, probably strike that from the record, so I don't get in trouble from the bookstore. There's several versions, and to be honest, the versions of the book, there was a pretty big jump, like 2 or 3 versions ago, but I don't think 4 and 5 are that significantly different. So if you can get a copy of 4, it's probably just fine. All right. So there will be a few scanned readings that I'll put online. So your grade in the lecture portion of the course is based on just 2 exams. The first one will count for 45, the second one 55, and your lab grade will be determined by averaging your score from each of the individual lab assignments. As you know, USM doesn't have plus minus grades, so those are the grading scale. All right. All right, so I wrote this a little while ago. So we're going to be using a piece of software called ArcGIS. It's kind of the industry standard for GIS software. And it'll be installed on all these machines. And the version actually will be different on a few of the different machines. Somebody could start ArcGIS down there on your machine and tell me what it is. I think it's 10.3 actually now down there. And I've set up they just released, literally, on December 15th or something, they released a new version that's 10.5. So that's the one I've installed on all these machines. But they used to have 10. Last semester we had 10.2, so that was perfect. So I've kind of given up on trying to keep up exactly with the software in terms of the labs. I'm trying to keep them up as best as possible, but we're not going to be using any of the functionality that's unique only to 10.5. There's not that much of it anyway in the software. But every once in a while you might notice the button's different. That's a good time to ask either me or the lab instructor what's going on. If you can't figure out which button, like maybe the button looks different or it's in a different place. But we do have ArcGIS 10X. It's all the same basic version of the software. So ESRI is a company. ESRI used to stand for Environmental Systems Research Institute. I don't think they use that on any of their packaging anymore, like ESPN or something. What does that stand for? I'm sure it stands for something, but now they just use that. Anyway, they're a company based in Redland, and they're the commercial GIS software product. I also have installed on all the machines an open source version of GIS software you could experiment with. Okay, so I do have copies of this software. However, so far ESRI has only given me versions of 10.4 to hand out. So if you get a copy from me to install on your computer, it's going to be 10.4. On the lab, it's 10.5 here, and I think you guys are at 10.3. I'm not sure. It is 10.2 there. Okay. That's what we were on. No, actually, I think we were at 10.3 before that we upgraded. But it takes a little while to install software on every computer. But I would like to do that down there as well, so that we're all on the same one. Okay. Here, you can read the rest of this stuff on your own. X this out. All right, so I'm already modifying this slightly. Today we are going to do the lecture for chapter 1 and 2, and next week there's no lectures. Don't get here at 1 o'clock. But if you need help for the lab, get here just a little bit before 3, and GHY will be here to help you through a lab course. So usually the labs do 2 weeks after they're assigned. So I'm going to make it 2 weeks after this, since really some of you may not even get started on the lab until January 25th. This one will be due 2 weeks later, so if we do this week, it'll be due February 8th. Does that make sense? So from then on, though, they're due 2 weeks after they're assigned. So projections will be due this week, digitizing will be due this week, and so on. Digitizing is probably the lab that has the most differences in slightly different versions of the software. So I'll have to make sure that lab is updated correctly for each version of the software. Okay, we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about GPS. Most of you probably use GPS now since they're installed on smartphones. We'll talk about how it works, and we'll talk about some applications for its use in GIS. We'll talk a little bit about aerial and satellite images. There's several courses on this subject here at USM. This will just be an introductory course. Other places to get data, to get GIS data, and then we'll get into spatial analysis in the second half of the course, actually analyzing the data, the GIS data. All right. Anybody have any questions about the syllabus? At this point, probably not. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. And then, if you go to the course materials, I had this copied over from the last time this course was taught. And so, if you go into a week that's not yet come up, so for example, if you went into week 2 here, the materials will be different than they'll actually end up being. So I'm going to be revising them as we go along. So it's kind of like telephone at this point, because I started teaching this course at USM, and then a graduate student took over. That graduate student's graduated. Then Dr. Carr taught it last semester, but each time we've passed the materials and updated them, you update them every time you teach it. So the one that's up here is from Vandana's teaching of the course, but I updated it already. So you can see here under readings, we're gonna do our. You'll be able to download the lectures here. So the readings, and I know that you guys can't follow along on your computers, but if you have a computer or you can have access to a computer later, you can download these. So we're going to do this week 1 lectures. This was. We'll also try to do this, and this was the old lecture. So we'll get rid of those. I'm teaching from these. You won't even see these when you log into Blackboard. You can just download them and download the second one. The labs are going to be here. I'm going to try this out. Who's used Turnitin before? Okay. Great. I haven't. So when you log into Blackboard, you'll see the lab. This is a document. I'll open it up and we'll talk about that at the end of class. And then you're going to turn it in here using this link that I've never done before. So if it works, that's great. If it doesn't, then we'll switch back to my old system where I emailed it to people. You already emailed it in to me. For the graduate students, you're going to have to email it to me. Anyway. All right. So let's get into the lecture. I feel bad that we don't have the computers ready to go, because it's always fun to touch the computers the first day. But that's the way it. Oh yeah. So I just revised her material. She had a different slide up as the first slide, and when I retyped this, I forgot that the number wasn't 417. This is actually the introductory for 217. There is a 417 class. I'll change that later, but 417 is the second level of GIS course. Don't worry, we're not teaching that. We kind of went over the schedule already, but this is what we'll be talking about in this course. A lot of this will make more sense as I proceed through here. But one of the things that's really neat about GIS, which stands for Geographic Information Systems, I don't know if I said that yet, is that it actually influences or is used in so many different fields now. And so whatever your interest is, even if you're not a geographer, there are probably people using GIS in your field. Any field where we care about data about the world, where we could make a map, you could probably use GIS in that field. So I've got some examples here. This is not anywhere near an exhaustive example, but like in healthcare, actually we had a grant when I first got here where we were using GIS to quickly tell people what the fastest route out of town was. Now the quickest way to do that is probably your cell phone, right? Maybe your cell phone doesn't work. Well, if your cell phone doesn't work, neither would our application, which was a web app. Anyway, so that's an example of a healthcare application. Another one is to locate new clinics or hospitals. In fact, in a lot of fields, GIS is often used for that purpose, to find new locations, whether it's a new store or a new hospital, a new clinic. Obviously, delivery companies like UPS can use it for routes and schedules. One of the things that's interesting about GIS is now we're on the boundary where we're moving from having this be mostly a desktop software to having it be web services. And we can use things like our phones to do routing and scheduling. But the concepts and the technology are still the same, regardless of whether or not it's running on a server or it's running on your desktop. It's using the same data structure and the same analysis type. It's just involving more than one computer at the same time. Finding new highways, forestry, where to cut, plant, build. Governments can use these things for allocating funds. We're going to talk about the United States and many other countries are divided up into neat little administrative units. We all know what countries, states. Inside of states, we have counties. We also have other things like cities. And in some states, they have townships. And we have zip codes. There aren't really administrative boundaries, but we could use them. Census units. We're going to talk about all sorts of data that we could use to answer questions. Spatial data. That term spatial, that means having to do with space. And it's one of the primary things that makes the study of geography work, if it's spatial. Sounds kind of like I'm saying special. Okay, travelers, farmers. Let's get into some pictures here. All right. So this is an older GPS device, but GPS is literally everywhere. You could use a GPS device to track attached to an animal. Okay? It's an elephant. Okay? And that animal could be wandering around with a GPS device, and it's logging data. What's it actually, if you think about it, what's it actually taking and storing in its little, probably an SD card inside, or maybe it's transmitting into a radio collar back? What does that data look like? What numbers? It's numbers that represent a coordinate, right? So it's numbers that represent a coordinate, and that coordinate is what makes it spatial. And so each of these little dots on here that are connected are a coordinate. What is a coordinate? A coordinate is a set of two numbers, sometimes three if there's a height associated with it. Okay? And so we have to spend time talking about coordinates and different types of coordinates. We've all probably heard of latitude and longitude before. We'll talk about that. But there are different types of coordinates, and they're used for different purposes. That's just one example. Here is here's some data that represents elevation. So with elevation data, we can do things like model how water would flow over that elevation data. And so this elevation data is different type of data than the data that you would see in this one, because this is just made up of a bunch of coordinates that are connected. And this type of data is usually stored as a series of evenly spaced numbers that represent elevation. It's kind of like a picture, but the numbers don't represent brightness, they represent the elevation. So we can represent water flowing over where it would flow, because we can say, oh, the water would always follow the steepest path down the hill. So we can say, okay, water would flow this way. We can make a model of what of the water flow. Other things that we could do is to analyze that data, besides just model where water is going to flow, is that we could do things like analyze, first of all, basic stuff like look at the distance. Okay? How long is this river? How many rivers are in a certain area? Things like that. Okay. Overlay and buffer. One of the things that GIS is good at doing is taking two or more data sets and getting an answer. So if we had this elevation data set and we had a city, like let's say Hattiesburg, we can easily answer the question, what's the average elevation within Hattiesburg? Or let's say we had a data set that represented population and a data set that represented counties. It'd be easy to take these two data sets and do what we call overlay and decide, okay, how many people live in each of these administrative units. And the answers to these questions kind of can be piled up or chained together to answer a complex question. And so part of GIS is saying, okay, our complex question is, where do we want to put a new store? Well, the next question is, what determines where you want to put your new store? Is it related to potential customer base? What are potential customers? Well, my potential customers are people that are in this age group and that live within this distance of where I am. You can answer those questions in the GIS and come up with people that are highly probable to be your customers and somewhat probable to be your customers, and so on, and then find out where the best store location would be. There's all sorts of questions you can answer with the GIS. Some of them are just direct overlay. One of the big concepts in GIS is adjacency and proximity. In other words, I may not say, okay, they're within the city limits, but how far are they away from a certain point? So GIS gets used a lot. In my research, I work a lot with nonprofits to look at ways to use GIS in natural resources and in conservation. And so we're answering questions like, if I want to take some land unit or even ocean unit out of the out of being used for economic purposes, that there's a cost associated with that. There's a cost associated with the loss of production, like if people are using it for hunting or people are using it for fishing. There's a cost associated with that. There's also a cost associated with acquiring the rights to that land. And so you've got all these questions that can be chained together and say, okay, I want to find the best place that's going to satisfy the goals to remove the threats from certain species that I'm worried about, but also have the least economic impact. So there's GIS. GIS can be used to answer those questions. So, in the government type situation, we might see a tax assessor using GIS. A water department water lines and sewer lines and that sort of thing. Police department could use it to analyze crime patterns. They could also just use the GIS system to keep track of facilities. Now, how this is actually implemented in different city governments is not always the same. Sometimes there's a separate GIS department. Sometimes it's housed inside of one of the other departments. But more and more city governments and state governments are utilizing GIS in different areas. Okay. Another reason for GIS is that it offers very convenient storage. If you have a bunch of paper maps, you can't change those as frequently. A GIS system, you can change a particular object or particular entity very quickly. It's very easy to update and edit if you have those skills. You can also have large volumes of data. I already said you can have large volumes of data. You can also integrate with others very well. Okay, GIS systems are getting better and better at being able to integrate with other workflows. I went to a conference this last year where the CEO of this company called CityWorks gave the keynote address. And his argument was that, well, he basically talked about how CityWorks had invented the concept of a GIS-centric city database. And so rather than having your database exist and having your GIS system talk to your database, the cities that he sold his software to were switching to a model where the GIS system was the database, and the other software that was needed was hooked into that. And so it's a software package or most GIS software packages can be utilized in that manner, where they can take the place of a database, or at least be very tightly coupled with a database. We talked about some of the spatial analysis capabilities already. One of the great things about GIS is because it's a computer system, it doesn't complain if you give it a repetitive task, which is nice. People usually get bored of repetitive tasks, but in some of the later GIS courses, we talked about automating GIS processes, and even in this course, we kind of introduced the concept. So you can, let's say you wanted to make a map, and you want to make a series of maps that all look the same, but they were for different areas. GIS systems could be good at that. So here are some of the basic categories. Like I said, I do a lot of research in the environmental and natural resource management sector, but I'll have a lot of examples of urban and regional management. I've already gone over a few of them. Infrastructure management. This one we probably have the least amount of examples for in this course, just because I'm not quite as familiar with, sometimes it's called FM, facilities management. But it is a big market. A big section of the market is on like the water main stuff, which would fall into that category. And then commercial. People using the GIS to site new businesses and things like that. So here's an example of using GIS to monitor and map sea ice in near real time. So this is a satellite-acquired image. The image can be processed, turned into these lines that represent areas where there was ice, there is ice now, and over time you could make you could have a GIS database that had that information in it. You can make a report of how quickly the ice is receding, or how fast it's receding, or where it's receding more than others. So here is a facilities management example, doing pavement quality, inventory modeling. Looking at lobster. Here's some more maps. Maps are always better. where the lobster has been found, where the larvae have been found, moving around. Okay. So what is a GIS? I've used this a lot, but a GIS typically involves a computer. It says high computer. This is from your book. High speed is a relative term. I mean, we're going to be running GIS on all these computers, and they're not like supercomputers or anything, but they're not like 5-year-old clunkers. You do want a pretty fast computer though, because you want to be able to take this data, which is sometimes quite large, and visualize it, zoom in, zoom out, that sort of thing. But the data is stored on disk. Data is stored as basically as coordinates. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. You want to have a pretty high resolution display. I'll move the rest of that. So a GIS is an object that you can touch usually. Even if it's in the cloud, it's still just on another computer that's out there, and that computer is set up and ready to receive requests. If the computer is a GIS system for routing, it's waiting for you to provide it 2 locations, and it'll spit back a route. There are other types of analysis it could do, but that's one that's very common, so that's why you use it. Okay? So it is a tangible thing, and that's what this is trying to say. But probably more importantly, GIS is a set of tools or a set of things that a computer does to geographic or spatial data. And these can be separated into these categories. So a GIS system has to be able to take spatial data from the world and put that into the computer. In other words, create new spatial data. And we're going to talk about a few ways in this course to do that. One way might be to take an existing paper map, scan it into your computer, and draw the things that you see. That's called digital coordinate capture. I'm just drawing something with my mouse. Okay? I might want to assign that thing that I drew attributes. I might also want to just take some data that somebody else created and put it into my computer. All right, editing. It might be, in fact, it happens, things change over time. And so a GIS system has to be able to allow me to go in there and modify or change the boundary. That's editing, and we'll cover that in this class. In fact, these 2 things will happen before the test. So will this, data management. I'm going to be able to take my data, copy it, merge it with another one. Let's say I have all the fire stations in West Hattiesburg and all the fire stations in East Hattiesburg, but I want them all to be in the same file on disk. Those sorts of things. Analysis. Now this is the big part. We're starting just before the test, but most of this will be the second half of the course. We'll do spatial analysis. Basically, we're going to be asking the GIS questions and getting answers. And then when we talk about this map algebra stuff, it's not like algebra like over in a math class, but it is basically taking all of the answers that you get from small questions and piling them up together so you can answer a large question. So that's what that is. That's towards the end of the course. And finally, we do touch on this a little bit, but you need to be able to make a map that's presentable to other people. And we are going to talk a little bit about that, but we have a course that's devoted to that called cartography, which is 210. So we expand on that in that course. But our GIS system that we use has all these capabilities. All right, now we're going to, for the rest of today, we're going. The rest of this lecture and all of the other lectures that I have up there, we're going to start talking about spatial data. We're going to start talking about the fact that we've got this world out here, and we're going to store that world in a computer. Now, we don't need everything in the world. The world's too complex. In order to answer these questions, we need to be able to create a little model of the world that has the things that are necessary, and even those things that are necessary that it has, we need to be able to simplify those things down so that they fit into a computer and that they answer our question efficiently. One of the first things is that we organize our data about the world into what we call layers. Okay? So spatial data is organized into layers. Now, lots of times in GIS, we call each of these layers files. It's kind of a misnomer because, in fact, a single layer is often 2 or 3 files on disk. But GIS will usually just show you that it's a single file. We might have a single layer called parcels, a single layer called districts, a single layer called streets. And the streets would have lines that represent roads. And districts would be polygons. I'm using some math terms, lines and polygons, but they're not hard math terms. Okay? You know what those mean, or we should know what those mean. All right, so here are some GIS layers thrown on. Blown up too big, it looks kind of pixelated, but we've got polygons here representing states. We've got lines representing a river, at least one river. We've got smaller polygons representing counties, and we've got the roads in black. These are probably just interstates. Another river over here. And we've got cities here that are shown as brown dots, okay? Round points. So we've got points, lines, and polygons. One of the ways to conceptualize the world and put it into the computer as a set of coordinates is to model the world as entities that are either points, or they're lines, or they're polygons. How do you define a line in math? Right, so strictly speaking, a line in math is defined by just 2 points, right? Okay. Here in the GIS world, we're using the broader definition of a line that is really, technically, it's multiple lines. Okay? And so every line that you see on here is defined as a string of coordinates. And those coordinates just tell you, okay, here's the start point of the line, then go to here, then go to there, then go to here, then go to there, and so on. Okay? So that's a line. So the world can either be points, in other words, just an XY coordinate. When I say the world, I mean one of these layers. Like let's say our utilities layer was just a bunch of points. And those points might represent fire hydrants, they might represent substations for electricity, and so on. Okay? All right, lines are just points in space. We have a string of them together. So for this interstate, we have all the coordinates that we needed in order to define that line right there, that interstate. Okay? And then polygons are just one step further. The line, the point, there's a point that starts, and then points that define the boundary, and then a point that goes back to the beginning. Points, lines, and polygons. Now, the other thing that makes a GIS system is that every entity that's either defined as a point, a line, or a polygon has attributes associated with it. Okay? It has values, and these are usually stored in a table. Who's used Microsoft Excel before? Microsoft Excel, if you think about it, let's just picture you opened up Excel, and your rows represent all these entities from the real world. Let's just be simple and say that each row represents a state. Okay? Each row represents a state, and each column represents an attribute. And one of the attributes could be the name of the state, New Jersey. Another attribute could be the population of the state. Another attribute could be the governor of the state. Right? So having these 2 sets of information together is is what a GIS does. It puts those together. So there's a polygon associated with these attributes. So another way to think about it is that one of those attributes, we've got an attribute that represents New Jersey. One of those attributes is just the polygon itself. So the polygon is an attribute of this thing. This thing has a spatial location and it has other attributes. So here's attributes. Attributes are stored in tables. So GIS systems have tables in them, just like a normal database. If you haven't used a lot of database software before, that's fine. But we're talking about tables. And the GIS systems that we use and everybody uses throughout the world are tables linked with a coordinate, either a point, a line, or a polygon. So here we have this polygon would be linked with New Jersey. This polygon here would be linked with Pennsylvania, etc. And they have different attributes associated with each one. So if you read the book points this out. Geographic information systems. The word systems, sometimes, in this case, we usually understand it to be, it's the computer and everything, including the personnel. It's not only software and hardware, it also includes trained personnel, supporting institution, company, business, whatever it is, and protocols for its use. Okay, it's an older slide. Let me see if, maybe we'll come back to that one. This slide's in your book, though. This picture's in your book. So we've got the physical world, and we're modeling it by defining protocols, collecting and editing spatial data, analyzing it, reporting results, decide map, and implement those back into the real world. So we're modeling the world in a GIS, and this is the process that we're going through. 153. We're on target. We'll get out of here at 2:40. All right. Okay. So, in order to actually put data inside of a GIS system, which is what we're going to do for the first part of this course, we need to talk about how data is stored. And we talked about that a little bit through these layers. In fact, before I get too far, see my computer. I'm trying to run something. I'm trying to copy a bunch of stuff in the background, so this may not come up. I'm going to open up ArcMap so I can refer to it occasionally. It takes a few seconds to open, so. Okay, so when we go to do a GIS project, we need to basically go through these steps. First one here is to define the bounds. That may be done almost subconsciously, but it is done. In other words, if you're doing a project, you need to define where in the world you're working. That's what we're talking about. Geographic redo. Second is to choose the best data model. So that's what we're going to talk about today, what a data model is, and what are the different types of data models. We model the world. What are they? Define the grain size. Another way to say this is to think about resolution. To answer some questions, we might need to know exactly down to the centimeter where a particular object is. To answer other questions, that might be too much information and would cause our processing to take too long for the question that we want to answer. And So collecting, or it might take too much, it might be too expensive to collect that detail level of information. So if you look at the border between Mississippi and Louisiana, for example, it's the Mississippi River. And you think about how complex that boundary really is. I mean, the Mississippi River is like moving all the time. I mean, zoom all the way down to like the foot level. Okay? We don't, for lots of questions, we don't really need to know exactly where that boundary is. Okay? We just use a good approximation that somebody took a satellite map and drew the boundary, and that works just fine. So that's grain size of resolution. Okay? It might be that there's plenty of existing spatial data out there. That's something that we could utilize. And we're going to talk about this a little the next time we meet, which will be the coordinate system. And then for the next few weeks, we get down into here. Today we're going to basically talk about data model, grain size, and then we're going to progress down through here for a few weeks. Okay? So grain size or resolution does play a role in how much data volume that we'll have. Okay? If we have really fine data, if we want really fine, detailed data, we're going to have a lot of data. If our data is coarse, we won't have as much data in them. The questions will come out faster. They may not be as precise, okay, but they'll be cheaper and they'll be faster to produce. Same with area. If we have a really small area with a really large area, we're going to have bigger data volume, higher processing time. One of the things is that oftentimes I get students that want to tackle a huge project, like maybe for a research effort. Sometimes it's best to model that process in a small area. And then once you figure it out, then tackle a larger area. You may need to just set your computer aside for a little while to actually finish up that process. In fact, that happens in GIS a fair bit, even with today's computing speed. Sometimes we come up with a model that takes a couple hours to run, or even maybe a day to run. You have to let your computer work at the problem. Okay. Errors, obviously, the larger area that you have, the more potential that there is for an error. And as I said, basically cost is associated with these data volumes. So that's the same curve on the data volumes. All right, this is also a slide from the book here. We've got the real world. This wetland environment here doesn't look like it could be too far away from where we are. We've got some bald cypress trees in the bayou here. I don't know what's growing down here, but the way that we store this on disk is how I described this a few minutes ago. We've got all these entities, and we have to decide for the answer to our question, what data do we need to extract out of there? We might determine that what we're concerned with is answering a question like, how are the land cover types changing over time? And so we might delineate areas that are hardwood forests, and we might delineate other areas that are pine forests, and we might delineate other areas that are wetlands of certain types. And we have each of these polygons and we put them into categories. So I don't know for sure what this numbering, this scheme, average scheme is, but these can represent different land cover types for these polygons. So our data structure is the coordinate systems attached to the attribute. So the polygon itself is stored almost as an attribute. And so with the area, so is the attribute itself that represents the land cover type. So what data model we choose will actually influence or define what questions we can answer. The data model is important. So, for example, when we have questions like, do these two water bodies connect? Are they adjacent? Well, adjacent is kind of a, what does adjacency mean? Next to, right? So it's kind of a subjective. What does next to mean? Am I next to you right now? Any of you? Well, I'm close. So adjacency in the GIS often needs some additional parameters. So we could find out if this lake is next to it by saying, okay, was it within 500 feet or 2 miles? These lakes have been extracted from this aerial photograph, which is a very common way to get GIS data, is to use aerial imagery to get to digitize a particular object that you want stored in your GIS. So, if you think about the world as being a collection of entities are real-world objects. I think use the word object, we're going to define it in a second. But entities are real-world things that are out there. It could be a forest, it could be a stand. The entities are represented by objects on our computer. And the objects, what makes an object is that it has attributes. And in our case, what makes a geographic object is that it has coordinates associated. So inside the GIS system, what I kind of talked about before, and I had you visualize in your head, but inside the GIS system, to define a polygon, it's just a series of coordinates. In this case, a coordinate just means a pair, x and y, x and y, x and y. And it can have attributes, so we have to say a lot. Now, what I've taught you up to this point is this data model, the vector data model. Right? There's another way to store raster data. To store GIS data that we call the raster data model. I talked a little bit about this with the elevation example. There's two ways to conceptualize the world, and they are different, but we can use either one, and we can actually exchange back and forth. Sometimes there's data loss associated with converting from vector to raster after vector, but you can do that. But there's a little subtle difference, not a subtle difference, there's a fairly significant difference in how things are stored. So now we're going to talk a little bit about each. So, we talked a lot about vector data. And so, raster data is storing everything about the value in an evenly spaced grid. We'll go back to this one for a second. So a line is no longer made up of a bunch of a string of coordinates. A line is now made up of values that say, okay, this is part of the road, this is not part of the road. Part of the road, not part of the road. Points the same way. This is where it is, this is not where it is. And the area will be defined that way. It's usually not the best data model for things that are discrete. That's another mathematical term. Discrete means that they either exist or they don't exist, like this building that we're in. It has a boundary associated with it, right? You're either inside the building or you're outside the building. I mean, I guess you could go and stand in the doorway like this and be half in and half out, right? But things that are discrete in this world are usually better modeled in the vector data model. However, sometimes there's a reason for putting it in the raster data model. Things that are stored well in the raster data model are things that change constantly as I travel through the world. For example, elevation. Okay, elevation, I always am experiencing elevation. There's an elevation that's associated with where I am, no matter where I am in the world. Okay? Can you think of anything else that's like that? That's not like, are you in a building or are you out of a building? Are you on a road or are you not on a road? What other things like elevation could there be?
Latitude and longitude.
Yes, latitude and longitude. I mean, that there may actually be a reason for creating a raster. Let's say we had a grid cell where every cell represented the latitude. We had another grid cell where every grid cell represented the longitude. So if it was latitude, it would be slowly increasing. So all these would have the same value. These would have a little bit higher value, a little bit higher value. Everywhere there's latitude and longitude. Certainly, there might be a reason for storing a raster like that. Okay, one of the things I was thinking is temperature. And although temperature changes less frequently than elevation, in other words, the temperature here is probably the same as the temperature here. But let's think about it on the scale of the United States. If I had a raster map where every cell was the temperature inside of that cell, and then I symbolized it to say, okay, cells that have a low value, in blue, and slowly migrate up until you have a high value of red and kind of go through the rainbow between blue and red. Okay? You've probably seen a map like that, right? On the news or in USA Today or whatever. That type of map is often best created from a raster. There's temperature everywhere. You can even have precipitation from last night. So let's have a map of, and each cell represents how much water fell at that location. Okay. All right. Another difference between vector and raster is that with vector, the coordinates are stored. Every single coordinate is stored as part of the entity. In raster, we don't need to do that. Only the corner needs to be stored. Everything else can be inferred. And so the coordinate is inferred from the corner. Sometimes it's this corner, sometimes it's that corner. And the values are the attributes themselves. The values of the attributes. We still have coordinates associated with values, but we're storing them in two different ways. These are the two most common data structures, or data models, vector and raster. There are a few more that we'll kind of hit on throughout the course, but here's some other examples of things that, soils could be raster or vector, depending on what the attribute is. Like if it's an attribute of the soil, like how many parts of whatever mineral you found in it, that's probably better as raster. If it's just the soil type, that's a label. Probably pretty good as a, all right. So we already kind of talked about that. One layer for each distinct view or thing. Okay, we're going to get into this a lot more next week, but there are two types of coordinates. So when we talk about coordinates here, there are two types. One is two-dimensional, and it lets us do things like we learned about in math class. So we have an origin, we have x and y, and if we want to find the distance between this point, we just figure out there's 1, 2, 3, 4, over 2 up. So we could use the Pythagorean theorem. 4 squared would be 16, 2 squared would be 4, that'd be 20. So this would be the square root of 20, the distance here. You can't do that kind of math on three-dimensional coordinates. The three-dimensional coordinates are latitude and longitude. They're referenced from the center of the Earth. The center of the Earth is 0, 0. And they're angles, latitude, longitude, and looks like this. Center of the Earth, latitude, longitude. And it's hard to calculate distances. Computers can do it, but we still use two-dimensional coordinates a lot. Okay, let's get to this next week. In fact, yeah. So computers, I'm just showing here that computers can do a coordinate conversion from degrees, minutes, and seconds. But next time we meet, we'll actually cover this. All right. So we talked about points, lines, and polygons. Alrighty. So let's conceptualize it a little further. Okay. Polygons, points, lines, basically vectors, are one-to-one. In other words, for every object, there's a one-to-one correspondence between the polygon and the object itself. Now, for example, Washington has a ton of these little islands all over here. In fact, it has two more over there, same one island. But there's a bunch of islands out there. So technically speaking, mathematically, that's lots of polygons, right? One polygon for this big part of it, and then there's a bunch of others. If you have a hard time figuring out what I'm talking about, think about Hawaii, right? Hawaii is not one island, it's a bunch of islands. Michigan is not even two islands, but it's two polygons because it's got the upper peninsula and the lower peninsula, right? So when we say it's got a one-to-one relationship, we mean that the polygon itself, the spatial data, one spatial entity, it could be multiple polygons, is associated with one row in the attributes anyway. So this thing says, any problem with a one-to-one corresponding polygon? Two attributes, row for states? No. You can have this entity represented as a single polygon. Okay? Although it's got multiple, ArcGIS uses the term rings. I'm sure the different software uses it. It's got multiple rings for one polygon. There's always a one-to-one relationship between the entity and the object and the table. Minnesota is one. Minnesota probably has some islands off its coast. Now, one of the things that the vector data model does do is, like I said, you're either inside or you're outside of the polygon. The point is there or it's not there. The line is the same way. So you're enforcing uniformity. In other words, if you call this polygon bare ground, okay, you're implying that there's nothing inside of it, even though there may be a few little straggling bushes growing. All right? That's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to simplify the world for the problem that you have at hand. That's one of the drawbacks of the vector data model, is that you're enforcing uniformity in that area. It can be, I shouldn't say a drawback, it's one of the characteristics of the vector data model, because you're either in or you're out. Another thing about the vector data model is for a long time, people saw this planar topology as a real big advantage. In other words, inside of the GIS system, you could not have this. You could only have this. In other words, if you have one polygon and you had another polygon and they overlap, the computer system would take over at that point, and you really had three polygons. You have one polygon here, and you have the overlap. And the overlap would automatically have all the attributes from both 1 and 3. Okay? And there are a lot of advantages to that. Today, most GIS systems actually work like this, where you can have two polygons and planar topology is not enforced. In other words, you can have two polygons that that overlap but don't share attributes. Now, this throws a wrench in analysis sometimes. You just have to remember that it's possible if somebody, for example, if these represented parcels, and somebody came in and modified this parcel to look like this. Well, it's not possible for this parcel and this parcel to coexist. This parcel is either here or there. It's not both, right? Maybe this line isn't correct, and this line is correct. But if you go into a GIS system and edit the line for this polygon for number 2 and pull it up to here, you're not editing the line for this one right here. You're not editing that line anymore. You were under older systems, but you're not under newer systems. And so what's happened is the GIS systems have developed tools for saying, hey, there are some overlap. Show me all the overlapped areas. So that you can correct that. So that's called planar topology, basically. Most systems use non-planar topology now. All right. What time is it? Okay. So the 6 coastal counties in Mississippi, what are they? Let's see. Actually, this is a good time to yeah. Now this is let me see if I can bring this up real quick. All right. So this is the lab we did last semester. I'm going to go ahead and turn off all these labs, these data. So this is some GIS data for those of you who are interested. I'm going to go in here. One of the things I'm going to show you here real quickly is to say, okay, state name equals Mississippi. So now I'm just looking at Mississippi. So here are 6 coastal counties. We've got Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson, and that would be Pearl River, Stone, and George County. So nodes in a vector system would be the places where that are basically shared between 2 or more counties. So here, this would be a node, that would be a node, that would be a node. Those are shared between those 2 counties. Now, in a vector system, this only has 1, 2, 3, 4 points that define the boundary between these 2 counties. 1, 2, 4 points. In a raster system, all of the little dots would be stored. So it would be very much larger in a raster system than a vector system to store that data. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Go back. Okay, let's look at the attribute table because I said everything was attribute tables. So most GIS systems, or all GIS systems, will allow you to do this. So here's the attribute table, and if I want to highlight a particular county, so now I've highlighted, which county is that? Hancock. See how this county is highlighted, its attributes are right here. The state name is here, the county name is there, the state FIPS code is listed. The FIPS code is just the code the federal government uses for the county. And then we've got some other attributes. The population in 2000, the population in 2005. And we can move over and look at Harrison County, and then we can actually go up here to Forest County if you wanted to. Or Perry, that's Perry, Forest right there. It's the county that we're in right now. So here's the attribute data associated with this coordinate data, this vector data. We're not going to do that exercise. All right. Yeah, I'm going to go through that though. Okay, so start back up right there. All right, so with a vector data model, what determines the grain is not the same thing as what determines the grain in the raster data model. In the raster data model, it's actually more straightforward. In the vector data model, it's just the precision of those individual coordinates. Okay? In the raster data model, we have this concept of the cell dimension. So the cells could be really small. In other words, the cell dimension is how large a cell is on the ground in real life. So the cell is something that's stored in the computer, but the distance this box represents. So is this cell 3 meters by 3 meters, or is it 50 meters by 50 meters, or is it 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters? That determines the spatial resolution of the grain for a raster data. So all we need to do to determine any coordinate in the cell is we need to know coordinates of one of the corner cells. Here we've got the lower left cell. And then the cell dimension. So we know the coordinate of this cell because it's the same the same y coordinate as this cell, but it's, let's say the cell dimension is 10 meters. This cell is 10, 20, 30 meters away from that cell. So we know the coordinates of every cell in there. So that's how we do coordinates in a raster. Okay, so now let's compare raster and vector. So here's a raster, here's a vector. Each polygon has a row in the attribute table that represents attributes. That has attributes. Okay, that's for most people. This is pretty easy to comprehend. So what I just showed you in ArcGIS is this connection. This is related to that. B is related to that. C is related to that, and so on. There's a polygon and attributes that are tied together. Okay. All right. Now with rasters, we can think, okay, well, if we're going to convert this to raster, we can just lay the grid on top of it, and then whichever value is underneath the grid, pull that value into the raster. So this is the raster. Now you're saying, okay, what about the line? I should have had a graphic that shows up. What about the line that went through here? Okay? This had some A and some B. Typically, we either take the center of the cell. So computers will either take the center of the cell or the one with the most area. Okay? Lots of times that's an option. Okay? If you're converting to raster and vector, you can choose cell center, the value at the cell center, or you can choose the value that has the largest area. All right, so that's been converted from vector to raster. What about the attribute data? Well, one way to think about it is that now each cell it's like its own vector. And so if there's 100 cells, now we've got 100 rows in the attribute table. That rarely happens. That's not the way most GIS systems work. What they do is they work like this. They work like this, where the values are changed to a code. So instead of storing letters, they store numbers most often. And the numbers then are stored into a condensed attribute table where only the unique values are stored. So 10, 11, 15, 21. Only those values are stored, and their attributes are then associated with those values. So that's how a conversion usually takes place between raster and vector. Now, if these already represented elevation, there's really not any reason to actually have an attribute table. And so most GIS systems figure this out. Well, if I have 100 cells and 100 different unique values, it's really it's not necessary to have an attribute table. Okay. So like I said, converting between raster and vector is problematic. And we have this trade-off between changing the grain size and just exponentially increasing how much data we're storing. So if we made these cells smaller, we could make cells that were closer to the actual shape of these lakes, right? But the data size would just grow exponentially. And so there's only a few cells here that are straightforward if we have two classes, land or water. So this could be land, this could be land, this could be land, that could be land, that could, well, that's got some water in it. This has got some water in it. So how do we figure this out? Well, one way is to change the grain size. That blows up our data. The other way is to just say, okay, well, it's going to get the majority value. And effectively what we're doing when we do that is we're lowering the spatial resolution. We're changing the quality of the data. If we call this water and we call this land, we're kind of discounting the fact that there's some water in there. So there's always a problem converting from raster to vector and converting back. And we're losing some information because the data model itself is better at storing some data than others. All right. So we got this mixed pixel problem. There's some ways to overcome it. One way is to average the values. That's what this is saying. Yep, resampling ambiguity. Okay, what do we do with this? Oh, these could be 2s, but this would be what, 1.5 maybe? Average the values. This process of changing spatial resolution in the raster world is called resampling. With categorical data, it becomes even more complicated because you can't really average things. Just take the majority or the one closest to the center. There are 2 different ways to do that. Sometimes when you resample, it's because you had a totally different grid, a grid of a different size. Big grid, small grid, or the grid was even oriented in a different way. I'm going to leave this math out for now. Let's stop right there because we're getting close to. I want to do a little bit of introduction to the GIS software package, and we'll come back to that after we talk a little more about raster data structures later. Okay, so this is ArcGIS. This will be installed on all the computers once we finish installing them. And when I brought this up, I already had the counties already set up or installed on there. So I'm going to just walk you through a few things. So this is the way ArcGIS. Well, actually, when it first opens, it'll look like that. It'll look something like this. Most often for this course, you're going to cancel out of this. So this is just setting up different templates. Research that and look at that later. But most of the time, you're going to get a screen that looks similar to this. You're going to cancel out of it. All right? So we're going to talk about a few of the components. The lab goes over this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about that. This doesn't all fit on the screen, so that's why I'm doing this. Okay, I'm going to close this one. Now it may be that your map doesn't look like this at the beginning. I'm going to tell you how to turn on each of these pieces. This is what you call the table of contents. So if your map ever gets like this, which will happen sometimes, and you're like, where's that thing where I can turn my layers on and off and see them? Okay, that's the table of contents. That's under Windows, table of contents. So you can turn that back on. All right? Your table of contents lists all the layers that are currently in your data frame. That's what this is called. This is your This is an access to your data frame. So, right now our data frame is called layers. You can change it if you want to. But that's our data frame. This is a label to our data frame. These are the layers. All right? ArcGIS is going to walk you through this, or the lab's going to walk you through this, but we can add data. So I'm going to add that data back, that county's data that I had. So when you'll see your data listed out here. I'm going to add my counties back. By default, it's going to show up like this. These are a bunch of polygons. I can look at the attribute tables. Open attribute table. I'm going to add some more data. I'm going to add in the let's add in the interstates. So these are line data. Oh, I dismissed that too quickly. We haven't learned about coordinate systems yet, but what that was trying to do was warn me that my interstates were in a different coordinate system than my counties. And one thing that ArcGIS does really well is that it will put those layers and line them up for me. But it was warning me that it was going to be doing that. Anyway, so they're in different coordinate systems. So now I have both of those layers up. I can look at the attributes for my interstates. So these are polylines. Technically, I use the word line. ArcGIS would be more precise. Technically, these are polylines. In other words, it's not just one line, because one line is defined by two coordinates. These lines are, each object is actually made up of multiple lines with multiple vertices. So that's that. Okay. All right. Now, this is not something you're going to do in today's lab, but just kind of to show you GIS. This is a GIS question. What if I want to find all those interstates that are in Mississippi? Well, there's a few ways to do that, but one of them is select by location. I could say, okay, select all the features from interstates that are, first I have to select by attributes and say, okay, I want to select all those counties that have a state name equal to Mississippi. There we go. So now I've got my. See how I'm breaking it down into several questions. First, find those counties that are inside Mississippi. Second question is, I want the interstates that are that intersect with counties. I'm going to say use selected features. So only the selected features of the counties, which is 82 features. Do we have 82 counties in Mississippi? I didn't go to public school here, or private school. I didn't go to school in Mississippi, so. Now, you'll notice that it actually selected a few other interstates that go away from Mississippi. Why? Well, those lines intersect with Mississippi, but they also then travel out of the state. So a better way to say the question that we asked was, which interstates go into Mississippi or flow through Mississippi? Okay. So we said all of those that intersect with Mississippi. This one, which is 40, right? Or 20, sorry. And 10. So up here. This is the 20th leaving, but it's also called 59. So there, right? Okay. And this is the 10 going back the other direction. This is 55. It's going up. All right. So these are the types of questions. Now, there's also this other thing called the toolbox. The toolbox is what we'll be learning about this in the second half of the course. The toolbox has just a ton of tools in it. So you you just saw two tools, the select tool, will select by attributes and select by location. But there's a number of tools here that can do different analyses, and we can chain them together to answer more complex questions. All right, let's see if there's anything. Another thing that is oftentimes helpful is that you have the ability to add, this didn't used to be available, but now you can add a base map from the internet. You have to be connected to the internet to do this. But you could add, I'm just going to add one of these more simple ones, topographic. So now I have a base map. And this map, you've used web maps before, like Google Maps. This is similar to Google Maps. This is online. Didn't work. It died, but I don't know why. All right. Where's my phone? Okay, so that's ArcGIS, and as I said, we're going to get out of here about 2:40. But I do want to introduce GHY here. Let me see if she's here. Actually, and you'd probably be fine if you. So her. If anybody wants to know, I forgot the room number on it. Hold on for a second. I'm just gonna go see if she's down there. I told her around 3. So. So this is GHY. Her office is in 221, and so next week, a week from today, she'll be in here right about this time, 2:45, and she'll be able to help answer any questions you have on the. I told them to get started on the lab as soon as the computers work. But if they have any questions, then and I'll send people out too. But it's the same. Will you see it last semester? For this class?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So a year ago. All right, and I didn't put that on. So, anyway. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's Monday and Tuesday?
Monday and Tuesday.
From 2 to 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't actually talk about my office hours. My office hours are Monday and Wednesday mornings. Forgot exactly. It's on the syllabus. But if you have another time you want to talk to me. Thanks, GHY. So, all right. Since the computers don't work up here, we don't have a lab assistant down there. We will probably just dismiss for today. So no more lab, unless there's any other questions. And I'll try to track down. Nobody's showed up to be the lab person down there. No. Okay. What's that? Yeah. So we'll find a person down there for the lab, and I will see you all 2 weeks from today, okay? Unless you see me in the hallways before then, but I mean for class. That's it. All right. Thank you. Yes. Okay. What was your name? Okay. Yeah, I saw you on there. I'll make sure you're counted. And then there was one person. What's your name? You should have.
Chad.
Chad. Okay. Are you ready for the class?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure that you're.
My name's Raymond Moore.
Okay.
What did I miss? So we're not meeting for class
Next week we're not meeting for class. The syllabus is on Blackboard if you missed that.
Okay.
And the lab instructor will be here at 2:45 next week, which is when the lab usually starts.
Okay.
And
Wait, what is Blackboard? Is that on my SOAR? This is my first semester.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm surprised nobody else asked that. But usm.blackboard.edu. You log in with your same as you log in for SOAR.
Okay.
And then you'll see this course. It's called. You won't see all this. You only see your courses.
Okay.
It's called 217. It's called 217 and labs. So you hit that, and then the syllabus is right here. So you just download the syllabus, and then also you can download the lectures that I went through as well. They're under the course materials.
You said that there are 2 tests. Are the tests going to be based on the computer, or are they written tests?
The test will be based on the written stuff mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, just walking you through what we would do for
Yeah.
the processes. Okay. All right.
The concepts. So like, we'll talk about.
It's not like a project.
Right. Well, you have a project each
In the
week.
lab.
You'll have a project in the lab,
Okay.
and you also get a grade for the lab portion of the course. So there are really 2 courses, which I kind of don't
Yeah.
like, but you have to take them at the same time. So you get a grade for doing the project and a test grade.
What time did you say next week? Oh, Wednesday. We could be here.
2:45 is the lab person. She's here for the lab, not for the lab.
Okay. So we'll have our lab like the weekend whenever we can go ahead and start working on
You can go ahead and start working on wherever you want. I'll have these computers up by tomorrow at lunchtime. So also, if you want, maybe I wasn't clear about that. But if you want the software to install on your computer, I can give it to you. Okay. That would be the best, yeah. Well, that's just for this lab. But most of the time, I'll introduce the lab, talk about what the goal is. This one's just kind of getting to know you, getting to know GIS. And so this one, yeah, you try to work through it yourself. And if you have this kind of cookbook, pretty easy to go through. And if you have trouble, then come talk to us. She'll be here a week from today at this exact time.
Okay, and so we're coming just for lab.
Just for lab. There's no lecture.
So we'll normally just open up labs and you have to introduce and just start working on it and then finish up and submit them.
Yes. And sometimes the lab will, sometimes the lab will take a little longer than the lab period. And that's basically what the homework is.
Oh, I see, okay.
So, I think a lot of people could finish them up right then, but if you can't, that's fine. You got 2
Usually
weeks.
slow workers.
You got 2 weeks to turn.
Right, that's good, that's really nice actually.
All right.
So do you want us to get started on that first one or just?
Yes. Yeah. Get started on it, and then if you have questions, talk to GHY next week at this time. You do need to have the computer, the program to do it. So either come back here tomorrow and they'll be installed. One of the things I forgot, I should probably post. Sometimes there's classes in